decided I'd put on an apron. My clothes are covered with paint anyway. Hello, my name's Dan. This is Daily Art Adventure number 653. Broad glazes, acrylics now. Broad glazes over the drawing. So I started the drawing last night, Daily Art Adventure 652, I believe. I finally finished the drawing, at least to the point that I'm ready for the next step. It took me quite a while. It was not a quick operation. But I'm excited about this next step. And David, if you're watching, there's no liquid today. I'm coughing anyway. Quick word of introduction. I did a 6x6 last week of this same street facing the opposite direction, and I declared that painting was a turning point in my career. I mean, that's what I decided before I started it, and I still believe it was, although I only give myself a B or a B minus for achieving my objective. I'm happy to report that on the second painting of my new career, I'm realizing things that I didn't do the first time. So hopefully I'll get at least an A minus this time around. My hope, goal, objective is to allow much more of this abstract, crazy abstract painting to show through the finished painting. So today last night while I was drawing, I realized, oh, you know what? Every single stage of the painting process, I need to be more aware of saving the underpainting. I'll show you just real quickly since I'm taking this much time to talk about it. So let's say, for instance, these cars down here. Let's take this one right here. I drew it, as you can see, quite carefully. In fact, it's ironic that the most carefully drawn parts of this whole painting are these 4 cars right here, and that's all right. But after drawing it and painting it, I literally took this rag right here, put my finger in it, and rubbed hard through the drawing, exposing this shaft of red abstract streak. I did the same thing over here, where I painted it, then rubbed it out so that the orange was exposed. Then on this one, I also took a piece of water-soluble orange pastel and rubbed it on there again. So that's just one example. 2 examples, I guess I should say, of this quest to save the abstract. All right, so I'm ready to go now. And can you see my, yeah, you can see my reference. I've got this photo taped up here on my on my electronic monitor stand. So that's what I'm looking at. I showed that to you yesterday. I'll show it to you again maybe later today. And we're going to take basically I'm going to do like blocking, except I don't believe in blocking. I believe in blobbing. So I don't want this to have nice, neat edges. I want it to have messy edges. All right, for starters, then this building right here is essentially red. So here's the brush I'm using. All right, so again, there's my brush. It's a mop head. Works very well for making broad strokes. Now before that dries, I've got a couple minutes. It's quite a humid day out here. It's hot and humid out here in my garage. So I'm not in a desperate hurry, but without letting too much time go by, I'm going to pick up some rags and again, give some assistance to, maybe that's all I need to do. No, I'll do this. So you see what I'm doing? I'm just wiping off the red paint to assist the abstract, especially those 2 lights. Now, at the same time, now I can tell that red is going to need some reinforcements, and I'm sorry I'm off camera here for you. but can't be helped. The painting's just too big. What I'm doing now is not related to the abstract. What I'm doing now is representational. I'm painting the image. There are windows in this red brick building. That's why I painted it red, because it's a red brick building, so to speak. Well, I haven't said this in a long time. Let me describe a fundamental principle of my painting technique. If you're a regular, you witness this all the time. I just don't usually comment on it. I do, in fact, compare my painting technique, which is essentially layers and layers of transparent color. Okay, that's my painting technique. And I compare myself often to Rembrandt, not in skill, just in technique. As I like to say, my name and Rembrandt's name often appear in the same sentence. Dan Nelson sure ain't no Rembrandt. There's the sentence. All right. You know what I think I'm going to do before I leave? I'm going to pick up some smaller brushes. That means 4-inch brushes for you guys who are trying to get loose. Oh, okay. I left the. Okay, I compare myself to Rembrandt. In that, I paint in layers and layers of transparent color, getting opaque only at the end. Okay, that's just one overly simplistic way to describe all the great classical paintings of antiquity. Layers and layers of transparent color. Now, I differ with them all in one very significant way, and it's what you're seeing right now. The traditional approach, like Rembrandt approach, is that he did neutral-ish and earth tones underneath his paintings, and often very dark. Okay, now just because I'm not trying to copy him at all. For the last 15 years, this has been my practice, is that my underpaintings are very intense colors. So ask me why, I can't even tell you. That's just because that's the way I like it. That's the way I like doing it. I like intense colors underneath. My paintings actually get more subtle coloration as they proceed toward the end. So my overlayers are subtle, my underlayers are intense color. Right, I'm putting some yellow now on this pad, and I'm glad to say I'm on the camera now for you. This face of this building right here is very much predominantly yellow because of the setting sun shining on it. Hi, Susan. I like that. You sure watch a lot of Dan Nelson videos. You do, my dear. Bless you. A couple things you might take note of as you watch me paint is that I'm very, I usually say it when I'm teaching a class, being very careful not to be too careful. Okay? Or in other language, I'm very careful not to color in the lines, but in fact very much, yes, to color outside the lines. Very much so. That's very important. And again, most of you are like most of me. You are saying, I wish I was looser. And I know you're saying it with that tone of voice too. I've heard it. And I'm saying the same thing. I wish I was looser. Well, here's one answer. Stop using those small brushes. And get out some big brushes. All right. Here's been a while since I gave this. Dan Nelson's 4-step process for getting loose. You ready? Number 1, use big brushes. Use big brushes. Now you're loose. Now you're talking. And what happens is then students say, "Oh, I didn't mean that loose." The truth comes out. The reason you're not loose is because you don't really believe loose is better. That's the real crux of the matter. That's why people don't get loose, because they've heard that they're supposed to be loose, and they kind of look at somebody's loose paintings and they envy them. But when it comes down to it, it's just lip service. Because they're not really convinced that loose is better. That's why most people are not loose. All right, step number 1, big brushes. Step number 2, paint with 2 hands. There's method to my madness, ladies and gentlemen. Quit whining and complaining. Quit. Don't. Stop. Don't say ever again, "I wish I could get loose," if you're not using both hands. I will not allow you to even utter that stuff out of your mouth if you're not using 2 hands, right? Everybody can do it, no matter how old you are. I started using 2 hands when I was about 50. I didn't know it was going to be genius. I didn't know it was going to be a great boon to my my painting, the quality of my painting. It was immediately, instantly. Even though my initial, now I am ambidextrous. 15 years ago, I certainly wasn't. I wasn't ambidextrous at all. I am now, but in spite of that, my paintings improved instantly. The day, it wasn't actually one day, it was a process, you know that. But my paintings improved instantly the day I started using 2 hands. All right. How to get loose. Big brushes, 2 hands. Now this applies only to those of you who are either my age or you have glasses. That is, take your glasses off. If you need help being loose, take your contacts out. Take your glasses off. Okay, number 4, turn off the lights. Well, not pitch black, but paint in a dark room. And I'm as serious as I can be about that. And there you go. So that's how to get loose. I'm trying to decide what color to do next. I guess I'm going to do, let me show you just for a second what it is that I'm mixing my paints on. There you go. It's a butcher tray with and I'm pouring my mediums into, and then pouring paints. So I'll come back and use that red later, and that yellow too, but at the moment I want to do some dark stuff, so let's put some purple. In the world of transparent color, purple is your darkest color. In the world of transparency, purple is your dark color. It's the darkest transparent color. Yeah. This building right here is very dark, so I'm going to hit that with some darkness. That's probably good enough. And part of this building is dark, and then the stripes over here in this building, the brush is way too big for painting these narrow stripes, but it helps me be loose. Now, while I've got this purple-ish, kind of dirty purple stuff on my and nice big brush. This was a fun discovery. I think I was just walking through a grocery store one day and passed these and said, wait a minute, that would make a great brush. And indeed it does. So you'll notice, I hope you'll notice that I'm going outside the lines a lot, right? Not only does that help go great ways toward just achieving looseness, it also aids okay, now before that dries, I need to get a rag or two, and let's protect some of this abstract here. Yeah. I think everything else is okay. Now I can save this yellow stripe there. So I was saying, coloring outside the lines, of course, is one just very simple practice for being loose. But more than that, and if you're a regular, you've heard me say this many times before, human beings, the human eye gets a kick out of seeing little bits of the object that spill over into the background and little bits of the background that spill over into the object. I'll say that again. The human eye gets a kick out of seeing little bits of the object that spill out into the background and little bits of the background that spill out into the object. Now the analogy I usually use is a barn, the red barn against a blue sky. So what does that mean? We like to see little bits of red that have escaped from the barn into the blue of the sky, and little bits of the blue from the sky have escaped, insinuated themselves into the red of the barn. Okay, and everything I'm describing in that crazy expression is stuff that Monet and the other Impressionists taught us. I'm just saying it in a different way. To a large extent, the Impressionists schooled the human race on how human beings actually see the world. And contrary to what some of our grumpy relatives, they don't have to be relatives at all, but the more obsessive compulsive among us, contrary to what they think, we actually do not experience the world in carefully encapsulated nodules of color. In other words, when we're out in the country looking at a red barn, indeed, some of the redness from the barn does spill out into the sky. Now, oh boy, I'm getting myself into trouble. I'm going to have to explain too much. And I don't want to explain too much. Okay, I'll do this really quickly. Now, it's better if you're here in person, but it still works even on camera. Look at the edge of this canvas. See the edge? Is it hard, straight, and hard-edged, or is it fuzzy? It is not fuzzy. It is, if you will, sharp as a razor, right? stroke one up for the OCD crowd. See, I told you. Everything's straight. Everything's straight. Life is not a hodgepodge like your paintings. You know I'm going to say something because I have thought of that before. And I'm doing this really quickly. I could carry this little mental exercise, seeing exercise on for quite some time, but I won't. The fact is that while you were obediently staring at the edge of this canvas and going, yep, it's straight, yep, it's razor sharp, yep, there's no fuzz on it. While you were doing that, now here's where I can't be where you are, but virtually everything else in your field of vision. Now you are accustomed to understanding that only a small percentage of your field of vision is in focus, right? Tiny little bit. I forget what percentage, you can Google that. You know, it's like 4%, 5%, something like that, 10%, I don't remember. It's this really small number. So you're accustomed to the notion that this is in focus, but everything out here is fuzzy. Well, it's not just fuzzy. Why? Because in normal life, the way you and I operate our eyes all the time, our eyes are not, unless you're a disciplined artist, that's another story altogether, because most people are not, and even artists don't always use their figure drawing vision, their portrait vision when they go through life. In fact, they better not when they're driving a car, because you'll kill somebody. So your eyes are designed to bounce, stutter, jitter. That's what your eyes do. That's why you stay alive, because your eyes are going like this. Think of a deer, you know, caught in the headlights. Bad analogy. The deer caught in the woods. Their eyes, bird's eyes, they're always flitting. Okay, so while they're flitting, everything out here is not only fuzzy, but it actually interposes, trades places. So that's why we like to see little bits of the red barn in the blue sky and blue sky in the red barn. It's not just a trick, that's actually the way. Now, oh man, I'm getting in too deep. I've thought about all this stuff and I just don't want to go over it all again. Okay, so some smart aleck person, good, intelligent person, I don't mean smart aleck, some intelligent person who doubts what I'm saying will say, nah. So the fact is, if you do your painting so that everything is in perfect focus, the entire painting is in focus, then I'll experience your painting the way I experience all the rest of life. My eyes will look a little part of your painting and everything else will be jittery, transposing colors, out of focus and so on, which is correct. Now we're getting deep. The fact is, however, the pleasure, much of the pleasure that we experience when we are viewing art comes from being manipulated. The more skillful the artist is, then the more skillful the viewer is manipulated. That's so counterintuitive. Now it's psychologically counterintuitive because everybody gets their back up, stands up, puts their shoulders back, says, I do not like being manipulated. I hate being manipulated. Yeah. That goes in all the rest of life. That does not go in visual art. The paintings that you enjoy, well, there are some people that are deeply damaged and the only paintings they enjoy are super realistic ones. That's a different issue altogether. That's a personality defect, sorry. I'm really making everybody mad now. That's a personality issue. But most people, most normal people, the paintings they enjoy the most are the ones where the artist manipulates them the most skillfully. So, when a canvas reflects authentic human experience by having some parts fuzzy, some parts focused, and some parts interposing colors, that canvas actually gives us more pleasure. It's not more realistic. It's real to our experience, but not realistic in a photographic realism sense of the word. So there you go. That clearly infers that I do not think that super realism is the best kind of painting. And clearly I do not. Absolutely I don't. Now, unlike many people who say what I just said, hyperrealism is not the best. A lot of people, you suspect that a lot of artists say that because they are incapable, because they don't have the skill to do hyperrealism. I'm happy to report, I'm sorry to sound so arrogant, but somebody needs to straighten you out if you think that. I can do hyperrealism. Have done it. You can find it on my website. Well, for instance, go to my website, dannelsonart.com. Go to paintings, then go to automotive paintings. And on several of my paintings there are, now parts of them are abstract, but parts of the paintings are like traditional automotive art. Very, very realistic, and so on. There's a lot of other artwork that I've done over the years. Go to my airbrush page. Anyway, I don't need to, I'm sounding defensive now. I just want you to know that I can do realism. In fact, I still do it and will do more in the future. Why? Because it's fun, just pure T fun. It's fun for me. I'm one of those weird people that enjoys jigsaw puzzles. I admit it's a personality defect, but it's a defect I enjoy. And doing hyper-realistic paintings, I have some in my watercolor page as well. So go look at portraits, automotive, airbrush, and watercolor. You can see a generous smattering of hyper-realism. So I just say that because somebody out there needs to know that I have my opinions, not because I'm incapable of doing realism. Some of y'all suspect that that's what's really going on. In fact, I do too. I think that's why so many people paint Impressionism. I said that strange, didn't I? I think that's why so many people paint Impressionistic, is because they lack the drawing skills to do realism. So I share your suspicion to a large degree. If you are, I was thinking about this yesterday on a related subject. By the way, I'm doing a pink underpainting in the sky. That's going to be a blue sky, but I'm doing pink, orange, and yellow under the sky. I'm becoming more and more convinced. I was thinking about this yesterday. I was thinking about my college art experience, which, if you follow me, you know I usually have some pretty tragic things to say about my experience in college in art department. Oh, I'm debating how much to get into this. Some of you saying, yeah. Some of you saying, no. All right, I will say this. It was interesting yesterday. I opened an email, and it turns out that my alma mater, so to speak, is changing. Graduated from a college to university. So I am now the graduate of a university. It's like the movie, The Man Who Went Up a Hill and Came Down a Mountain. That's a fun, set in Wales. Good story if you don't know it. Good movie. The man who went up a mountain went up a hill, came down a mountain. So I graduated from a college, but now it's a university. So I actually watched some of the proceedings because it was interesting. And it was a good college, by the way. I'm quite, in some ways, proud of the college I went to, now the university. Unfortunately, I cannot, in good faith, say the same thing about their art department. That building is blue. Mission accomplished. Okay, here's, I don't want to drive anybody away or drive you crazy with some of these stories, but I grew up in a very, very conservative Christian home, and wouldn't trade for it. I think it was a great way to grow up, and I'm very thankful for it in many ways. Now, as you may suspect, and by the way, my parents I think were very good parents. They weren't perfect by any means. I just said that the other day, didn't I? Is that funny, saying the same thing a couple days in a row? But they were good parents, and they loved us, and they did the best they could, and I appreciate them. And I am what I am today because of both my parents. But I had some things I've had to recover from growing up in that rather conservative, one might say fundamentalistic culture. It wasn't so fundamentalist in my home, but the broader Christian culture, you could label it that. And so some of you are thinking all kinds of horrible things. That's all right, I can't stop that. But and I did have some things to get over. And then in my junior year, I transferred to the college that I would graduate from with a major in art, the college that became a university yesterday. Whoops. And pardon me just for a minute. Let me get my electronics. I just bumped my stand and knocked it all over. This is live broadcasting, folks. All right, are we still there? Yeah, but nobody's watching. So I freaked you. Oh yeah, somebody is, because I freaked you all out with all this religious talk. So I had some things to get over from my conservative, but I was just musing on this yesterday. So I grew up in a household, which by the way, I heartily endorse. I think it's good to grow up in a household that did not condone cussing, swearing, obscenity, and so forth. Now, some of you are thinking, oh, I can't believe it. So all my proclivities toward cussing come from my adult life, not from my childhood life. Let's be clear. When I hear bad words coming out of my mouth or almost coming out of my mouth, I cannot blame my parents. That's my own damn fault. Anyway, so I was pretty conservative when I transferred to this college. And boy, one of the things that just jangled me is that the universal word on campus, at least in the art department, was shit. And this, I wouldn't say it offended me, but it shocked me. It's like, you guys say shit a lot. Like every sentence. Like every sentence had 2 or 3 shits dropped in it. I didn't think that was a good thing at the time. Now, since then, I've grown up to discover, oh yeah, there's a lot of really worse things. But at the same time, it did reflect a sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? The German word. You know, Sitzenleben. It did reflect a certain attitude toward life. It was not terribly healthy in the art department, or in the arts. Can I go that far? Virtually every other word, no, every other sentence seemed to me as this. Now the reason I was sensitive to it because I was such a conservative kid. Does that make sense? And I've had to recover from some of my own hyper conservative stuff, and I very much have. I think, but there was some reason I was telling you that. It wasn't just to tell you that. I've forgotten what it was. I entertained myself into oblivion. No, there was something. It'll come back to me in a minute, I promise. There was a good point. That was just a tangent. It'll come back to me in a few minutes. Oh, I know what it was. So that story just kind of indicates sort of the atmosphere in the art department. Now, granted, see, I was a very conservative kid, so I was sensitive to that. I would feel differently about it today. But looking back, but looking back, looking back, the proclivities for cussing and obscenity did not put them in a good inner place for creating art. So I'm becoming, little by little, more and more convinced that the first half of your art journey, so I'm probably not speaking to very many young people. I don't think very many young people watch my video. I sort of wish they would. But I was thinking about this yesterday as I was watching some of the proceedings and reflecting on my experience 40 some odd years ago. If you're a regular, you've heard me say the first of our art journey I'm taking stock here just a minute. Are my abstracts showing through enough? Have I covered them up too much? I don't think so, but I am concerned about that. The first half of our art journey, I'm going to change now. I've been saying the first half of our art journey will, and halves, doesn't mean equal halves. The first half is learning how to paint stuff that looks like stuff. The second half of our art journey is learning how to paint stuff that looks like paint. Now that's deep and significant and meaningful. If you don't catch some of its meaning, that's right, sleep on it. First half of the journey, we learn to paint stuff that looks like stuff. Second half, we learn to paint stuff that looks like paint. In other words, the second half of the art journey, and not everybody gets to it, not everybody should get to it, evidently. I'm not criticizing other people's journey, but I do think I am prescribing what I think is a good art journey. Therefore, college art majors, what should painting majors in college be taught how to do, in my humble opinion? Unless I'm from Texas, then it's my humble opinion. My humble opinion is that students should be taught how to paint realistic. And any digression, even made by the student, into propagandistic, preacherly communication should be, if not forbidden, at least gravely warned against, forestalled by wise professors. Say, no, Johnny, no, Mary. This is not the time. This is not the right time of your life to start preaching sermons through your art. This is a time of life to learn how to paint. And I really do believe that. So what should college students learn? They should learn how to paint. And what I mean by that is they should learn how to paint stuff that looks like stuff. Later, as they mature, as people, and of course I can hear every college student in the world saying, what, you don't think I'm mature? Yeah, no, I don't. I don't. In just a few years, neither will you. When you look back on your college days, you'll say, dang, I was such an ass. I thought I knew everything. I knew nothing. And it includes after you graduate too. It's not just, you're ignorant while you, no. Anyway, who knows how many people I've alienated and irritated and in the last 10 minutes. As I say, it's my broadcast and I'll preach if I want to. Somebody said the other night, the closest they ever come to going to church is listening to Dan Nelson preach about painting. I take this as a solemn responsibility. Not really. Kidding about that part. Whew, all right. Anyway, I was thinking that yesterday. You see, what my college, as most college, what was wrong with my college art department? Nothing. It was exactly the same thing that's wrong with virtually every college art department in the Western world. And you know, in defense of my philosophically lost professors, because clearly they were philosophically lost, I now recognize that. They were nice guys, and girls, but they were lost as a goose philosophically. They didn't know what the heck they were doing or why they were doing it. Anyway, so to their credit, what they were trying to teach us, their students to do, what they were trying to teach us to do was survive or thrive in art establishment. And they knew that if they taught their students how to paint well, realistically, their students wouldn't stand a chance in the establishment. So that was their rationale. In fact, that's why, I've told you just the other day, I took a semester off after 2 years of an art major, that is junior and senior year. I took a semester off for a number of reasons. Lack of money was one. And stayed home and then came back the following January. Does that make sense? I took a fall semester out. And when I came back, the leader of the department, he was not the official department head, but he was the psychological, spiritual, so to speak. Everybody knew who the real leader was. And when he saw me return to his art department, he was quite disappointed. Yes, he was. He was quite disappointed. I think he envisioned that I was an embarrassment to his department. That's not good. That was not good. All right, so while I'm jabbering all over the map, I'm having lots of fun. I'm going to end this broadcast here. And what I'm going to do next is white acrylic highlights, light stuff, and no doubt some pale pastel light colors as well. So white and light. Again, being careful to preserve the underpainting. So I think I'm doing better than I did last time. I hope that continues. So once again, this is going to be a blue sky. Don't be confused by the pink, orange, and yellow. That's just the underpainting. But so far, I'm liking it. All right, some chats. Some fun chats from you guys. Wow, you guys talk more than I thought. Susan, we already said hi. Nicholas Bravo, good to see you. Thinker 888. Oh, staticky. Oh, did I fix that? I think I did. I hope I did. Yeah. Susan says, yeah, my name is often said with Dan Nelson's name. Susan's very sure watched a lot of Dan Nelson's videos. That's hilarious. Thank you. Uncle 60. Don't I ever take a nap? Yeah, I did. I slept 8 hours last night. Last name, I don't know why this is in my recommended, but nice, our man. Thank you. Thank you, last name. I hope you'll subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you're still watching. Susan, thank you for the encouragement. You like my method of preserving. Good, thank you. I appreciate it. I think I do too. I think I'm onto something. I'm going to keep on and try to perfect this art. Yeah, cars look good already. Thank you. For some reason, I just spent more time on those cars. The buildings are all accurate, but these are small. Anyway, that works. Hey, David. The size of the car in front seems small beside the sidewalk. This one, David, you're probably, I don't know if you're still here. Let me zoom in for a minute. Now, I don't know if this is what you meant, but as a matter of fact, I do think this car needs, it's a truck, doesn't matter, you know. I do think it is a little bit narrow, so I am in fact going to make it wider. So thanks for making me look again. I think that's one you're talking about, not this one. This is not too small, and this one certainly. All right, thank you. Good to have you on board again, David. Uncle 60, I found a company that takes your painting and makes puzzles out of them. That's what I should do. I should take one of my hyper-realistic paintings and make it, then I could do both at the same time. I don't know. That sounds like fun. Company in Canada, very good. Susan, if I could say one thing I dislike about technology, it is autocorrect. Exactly. Auto-incorrect. We should start calling it auto-incorrect. Exactly. Well, the name, yeah, David, because, I mean, yeah, Uncle 60, because David's in Canada. He could find that name. Thank you. My art is the best. My stories are second best. I appreciate that. And so we're dropping. Susan, I say crap a lot, and a friend told me she would hear shit, and it just offended her. Oh, that's funny. I grew up with that just meaning like a pile of stuff. Susan, that's hilarious. Oh, guy, I got a friend trying to call me. I need to get off and return his call. You're hired. Thank you. Oh, stream has dropped. Sorry, nothing I can do about that. I'm on the fastest whatever. Hey, Matthew Paltu, new name. Just working on stuff over here while listening to you talk, man. Great stuff. Great hearing your thoughts. Thank you, Matthew. Keep up the great stuff. Thanks for sharing. You're very welcome. Good to have you on board. Welcome. I hope you subscribe and hit the bell. And then we'll have this visit frequently. All right. End of broadcast. That's probably it today. I'm going to paint a little while, but without your company. I have a meeting, several engagements this evening I need to run off to. The life of an artist. But it's been fun. Thank you again so much. And if you're new, please give me a thumbs up and a subscribe. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.